There are some ancient structures in the world whose methods of creation are still not fully explained even today. These structures did not emerge through construction, but through direct intervention into the rock itself. Here, mistakes cannot be fixed because the stone is shaped only once. In this documentary, we explore ancient structures carved directly from solid rock around the world. Al-Khazneh, Petra, Jordan. Known as the Treasury, this monument represents one of the highest levels ever achieved in rock-cut architecture in the ancient world. Archaeological evidence indicates that the structure was shaped during the Nabatean period, in the early 1st century CE. This monument was not constructed. It was carved directly from a single, massive block of natural rock. The carving technique applied from top to bottom was a deliberate engineering choice intended to prevent structural collapse. Its monumental facade clearly reveals the aesthetic and technical mastery reached by Petra's architecture. The facade, formed by 6 Corinthian capital columns, is crowned in the upper section by a Hellenistic-influenced tholos. Bedouin legends led to the belief that the structure concealed a great treasure. However, no such evidence has ever been found inside. Rather than serving as a treasury, the monument is generally associated with a royal funerary function. The figures carved into the facade are interpreted as symbols representing the afterlife and divine protection within the Nabatean belief system. The walk through the Sig leads visitors directly to its monumental facade. This sudden encounter forms one of the most unforgettable moments of the Petra experience. It stands as one of the rare structures that truly represents the pinnacle of ancient rock-cut architecture. Longmen Grottoes, China. The largest and most impressive area within this rock-carved complex is the Fengxian Temple. At its center stands the Vairocana Buddha, the most striking Buddha statue at Longmen. The statue was carved in the 7th century during the Tang dynasty to express the connection between imperial authority and spiritual order. The figures surrounding Vairocana are arranged as supporting elements that reinforce the meaning of the central image. The unadorned figures represent the Buddha's disciples, while the crowned figures symbolize bodhisattvas. The figure on the left, Vaishravana, is one of the 4 heavenly kings and is responsible for the earthly protection of sacred spaces. His armored body and powerful stance clearly show that spiritual order is defended by physical strength when necessary. The Vajra he holds symbolizes that this protective role is supported by divine authority. The figure beneath his foot represents the complete suppression of forces that threaten the sacred order. The adjacent figure is known as Vajrapani and represents the divine power that protects the Buddha's teachings. Throughout the complex, these structures appear as small prayer niches and side cave chambers carved into the rock. This arrangement shows that Buddhist worship was sustained not only through monumental statues, but also through personal and everyday practices. This site stands as a powerful cultural landmark for visitors interested in China's Tang dynasty history. Naqsh-e Rostam, Iran. Located in southern Iran, this site is known for its royal tombs near Persepolis. The area presents a multi-layered rock-cut heritage spanning the Elamite, Achaemenid, and Sasanian periods. The most prominent elements of this heritage are the royal tombs carved during the Achaemenid era. The most striking example among them is the tomb of Darius I, dating to the 5th century BC. Below this tomb is the victory relief of Shapur I, a triumphal carving from the Sasanian period, dating to the mid-3rd century CE. In the scene, Shapur I is depicted on horseback in a dominant position, while the Roman emperors are shown defeated and submissive. To the left of Darius I stands the rock-cut tomb of his son, Xerxes I. To the right lies the tomb of Artaxerxes I, son of Xerxes I and grandson of Darius I. On the lower section of the Artaxerxes I tomb, a relief depicts the Sasanian king Bahram II in a victorious stance. Finally, the tomb of Darius II, son of Artaxerxes I, forms the last link in this royal sequence. Together, these tombs carved into the rock facade reveal a clear dynastic continuity, extending from Darius I to his son, his grandson, and his great-grandson. Kailasa Temple, India. Historical evidence indicates that the temple was carved in the 8th century CE, during the reign of the Rashtrakuta king Krishna I. The purpose behind carving Kailasa was to create a space of worship by bringing Shiva's sacred mountain down to earth, forming a sanctuary that could be entered. As a result, worship shifted from viewing the sacred mountain from afar to practicing devotion within the mountain itself. What makes the temple rare is not its ornamentation, but its creation process, which allowed no room for error. The need for every stage to be planned flawlessly in advance makes the temple a unique example in the world. The gopuram immediately conveys, right at the entrance, that the temple was not constructed, but carved directly from rock. Just after the entrance, the Dvarapala appears as a stone guardian responsible for preserving the ritual order of the temple. Beyond the Dvarapala that oversees ritual order, two large elephant figures positioned face to face make the visitor feel they are standing at the threshold of a sacred space. In the front courtyard of the temple stand two Dwaja Stamba pillars. Their role is to guide the visitor toward the main shrine along a ritual axis. While this guidance establishes ritual order above, the overall structure is balanced below by the elephant figures. The addition of bull-like and lion figures beside the elephants suggests that the structure is not only supported, but also protected. This concept of protection is completed by four lions positioned at the upper level, limiting the visitor's approach toward the main sacred space. In the rain, the temple clearly shows that this rock-cut structure was shaped by a deliberate and irreversible decision. These details show that the Kailasa temple is far more than an ordinary rock-cut structure. Abu Simbel, Egypt. Located in the Nubia region of southern Egypt, these structures are monumental temples carved from a single rock mass. The temples were carved into the rock in the 13th century BC by order of Ramses II, the powerful ruler of the New Kingdom period. The complex consists of two main temples. The Great Temple is dedicated to Ramses II, while the Small Temple is dedicated to the goddess Hathor and Queen Nefertari. This structure dedicated to Ramses II was designed to emphasize the pharaoh's divine power, equated with the gods. The four colossal statues on its facade depict the pharaoh seated, presented as a ruling and commanding figure. The interior of the temple consists of halls and sacred chambers arranged along a long central axis. The reliefs inside depict Ramses II's military victories and his relationship with the gods. Twice a year, sunlight enters the innermost chamber of the temple and illuminates the statues of Ramses II, Amun, and Ra-Horakhti. In this architectural alignment, the statue of Petra was deliberately positioned in a location that remains permanently in shadow. The small temple, on the other hand, is dedicated to the goddess Hathor and Queen Nefertari. On the main facade of the temple, the statues of Ramses II and Nefertari were intentionally carved at the same scale. This choice shows that Nefertari was not an ordinary queen, but one who held an exceptionally high status. Upon entering, the Hathor-headed columns arranged in a regular order clearly convey the sacred structure dedicated to the goddess. This concept continues inside, where wall reliefs depict Nefertari aligned on the same level as the goddess Hathor. Today, Abu Simbel attracts heavy visitor interest as one of Egypt's most iconic archaeological landmarks. Sigiriya, Sri Lanka. This ancient settlement is one of the rare examples where direct intervention into the rock merges with architectural construction. Sigiriya became a royal capital in the 5th century by order of King Qasr I. At the entrance, the colossal lion paws stand out as Sigiriya's most iconic and striking symbol. These paws were designed to make visitors feel they are passing not into an ordinary place, but through a ritual threshold. Over time, the body of the lion figure disappeared, leaving only these monumental paws visible today. Stairways integrated into the rock guide visitors toward the summit in a controlled and deliberate manner. Upon reaching the top, visitors encounter orderly gardens surrounded by palace structures and carefully designed water pools. The frescoes painted onto the rock surface are among the most valuable elements defining Sigiriya's artistic identity. These frescoes rank among the rarest surviving rock paintings in South Asia. Today, Sigiriya is preserved as one of Sri Lanka's most important and valuable archaeological heritage sites. Leshan Giant Buddha, China. The monument is located in China's Sichuan province, on a rocky cliff where rivers converge. The carving process began during the Tang dynasty, a period when stone and rock art in China reached its technical peak. With a height exceeding approximately 70 meters, the Leshan Buddha is the largest stone Buddha statue in the world. Along the side surfaces, smaller Buddha figures and reliefs appear, completing the main statue. The sculpture was designed in a seated position and carved directly from a single rock mass, achieving a natural structural balance. The understated facial features and orderly hair emphasize inner peace over outward expression. The placement of the large hands resting on the knees deliberately conveys a sense of calm and stability. Its striking riverside setting has made the Leshan Giant Buddha one of the region's most powerful tourist attractions. Vardzia, Georgia. This rock monastery was carved into the rock face of Mount Erusheti, located in the southern part of the country. The carving of the complex began in the 12th century, during a period when the Georgian kingdom was gaining strength. Extending deep into the rock mass, the monastery forms an extremely complex settlement containing hundreds of chambers. In the late 13th century, a powerful earthquake permanently exposed many sections of the structure. The Church of the Dormition is the main place of worship, carved at the center of this complex layout. Its interior walls preserve some of the best preserved examples of medieval Georgian fresco art. Applied directly onto the rock surface, these frescoes have retained much of their color over the centuries. Where frescoes and decoration are absent, these spaces served practical, daily functions. Areas bearing iconographic frescoes, however, were clearly devotional in purpose. Today, the monastery remains an active religious site, with several monks still living within the complex. Add Deir, Petra, Jordan. The monastery is located on a high rock plateau in the northwestern part of the ancient city of Petra. This structure did not emerge through a conventional construction process, but through a meticulous rock carving effort carried out in the 1st century AD. With facade dimensions exceeding 40 meters, the structure forms a powerful focal point that can be perceived from a distance. Access to the monument is provided by a long, stone-stepped path shaped in antiquity. At the end of this route, visitors encounter a wide, carefully leveled open area positioned directly in front of the structure. This flattened space was designed on a scale capable of accommodating large gatherings of people. The side stairways clearly indicate that the facade was not intended to be viewed only from the front. The harmonious spacing between the columns and the proportions of the upper structure point to a carefully planned architectural calculation. Qasr al-Farid, Hegra, Saudi Arabia. This monumental tomb is located near the southern boundaries of the archaeological site of Hegra. Historical evidence indicates that the structure was carved during the Nabatean kingdom in the early 1st century AD. No additional stone blocks or external construction elements were used in its creation. As a result, the monument was formed entirely by carving directly into the main rock mass, without the use of external materials. The unfinished lower facade of the structure indicates that the construction process was abruptly halted. Buddhas of Bamiyan, Afghanistan. This rock face contains both rock-carved Buddha statues and monastic chambers. The Bamiyan Valley began to take shape as a Buddhist settlement from the 2nd to 3rd centuries AD onward. The most striking elements of the valley are the 2 monumental Buddha statues carved directly into the rock. Research shows that both Buddha figures were created through a gradual process during the 6th century AD. The larger figure is known as the Western Buddha, while the smaller one is identified as the Eastern Buddha. Located along the Silk Road, these Buddhas functioned as both religious and commercial focal points. The destruction that occurred in 2001 eliminated the physical statues, while the rock niches remained intact. Maijishan Grottoes, China. This rock-cut settlement near Tianshui is among the most remarkable Buddhist monuments of the Gansu region. The beginning of the rock carving process dates back to the later Qin period, which ruled in the late 4th century AD. The caves carved into the steep faces of the mountain create the impression of a Buddhist settlement suspended in the sky. The complex consists of more than 200 caves carved directly into the sheer cliff face. The caves are interconnected by wooden walkways running along the cliff, forming a striking and dramatic route. Within the Maijishan grottos are thousands of Buddhist sculptures, most of which are made of terracotta. Among the most notable of these are the large Buddha figures carved directly into the rock at the center of the complex. The frescoes decorating the cave walls cover an artistic surface extending over hundreds of square meters. Together, the sculptures and paintings illustrate the evolution of Buddhist art from its Indian roots to a distinctly Chinese style. Uplistsikhe, Georgia. Located near Gori, this rock-cut city is one of the oldest settlements in the Caucasus. The Uplistsikhe church is considered the best preserved masonry structure still standing within the rock city. The church dates to the 10th century and represents a clear example of early Georgian Christian architecture. The settlement is not limited to religious buildings. Civil and ceremonial spaces also play an important role. Taymaz Hall is the largest and most impressive interior space in the city. The hall is named in reference to Queen Taymaz's reign during the Georgian Golden Age of the 12th to 13th centuries. Following the Mongol invasions, the city was left defenseless and gradually abandoned. In the past, the rock city possessed an exceptionally extensive system of carved architecture. The structures visible today represent only the preserved remnants of this once vast settlement. Kızılkoyun Necropolis, Türkiye. The Necropolis is an important rock-cut burial area located in the city center of Şanlıurfa. Used intensively between the 3rd and 4th centuries AD, the cemetery reflects the city's funerary culture. More than 100 rock-cut tombs clearly demonstrate the area's long-term and planned use. The limestone composition of the hill made the concentration of rock-cut architecture possible at this location. This characteristic allowed the emergence of temple facade tombs, which are rare within an urban centre. When the chambers of the necropolis are examined, it becomes evident that the wide central space was intentionally left for movement and ritual use. It is a site well worth visiting for those interested in ancient funerary architecture. Gunung Kawi, Bali. The temple complex is carved into the rocky slopes of the sacred Pakarasan Valley. Archaeological evidence indicates that the complex took shape in the 11th century during the Udayana dynasty. The candi carved into the rock during this period were designed not as physical tombs, but as monumental symbols dedicated to deified kings. The name Gunung Kawi itself reflects this concept of monumental temples carved directly into the rock in local terminology. The candi carved into the rock face form a balanced sacred arrangement on both sides of the complex. These structures were carved along steep rock surfaces exceeding 6 meters in height, giving them a monumental scale. At times, long-tailed macaques can be seen sitting quietly on the stone terraces of this sacred landscape, displaying trust and harmony through mutual grooming. Shaped by human hands, this place still preserves its balance with nature today. Dazu rock carvings, China. This monumental rock carving site is located in southwestern China, within the Chongqing region. The rock carving tradition at the site, which began in the mid-7th century AD, continued to develop from the 9th to the 13th centuries. Now, let us take a closer look at some of the key sculptures at the site and examine what these figures convey. In this relief, the Bhava Chakra visualizes the cycle of samsara, in which beings are carried by the consequences of their actions. While the figure gripping the wheel symbolizes the inevitability of death, the 6 segments represent the realms of humans, gods, animals, and suffering. In another relief, Hell Guardians illustrate how souls are directed according to their actions in the earthly world. One of the most famous scenes at the site is the reclining figure of Sakyamuni Buddha, depicting his entry into nirvana. His posture, lying on his right side, symbolizes the conscious conclusion of worldly existence in Buddhist tradition. Calmness, rather than sorrow, dominates the scene, because nirvana represents the end of suffering in Buddhism. The figures facing him represent his closest disciples, who preserved and carried on his teachings after his attainment of nirvana. The smaller figures arranged above represent sacred beings observing the scene. Composed of thousands of scenes, this remarkable rock complex is especially recommended for those interested in culture and art. Buduruwagala, Sri Lanka. This rock-cut monument is located in the southeastern part of Sri Lanka. Seven figures carved into a single rock surface are arranged in a deliberate iconographic order. At the center of the complex stands a massive Buddha figure. With a height exceeding 15 meters, this figure forms the primary focal point of the site. Immediately beside the central figure is a white plastered statue that occupies a distinctive position within the composition. This figure is associated with Avalokiteshvara, regarded in the Mahayana tradition as the embodiment of compassion. Among the accompanying figures, the female figure is identified as Tara, while another is traditionally associated with Prince Sudhana. On the other side of the Buddha, another group composed of three figures draws attention. The crowned figure at the center of this group is associated with Maitreya, regarded as the Buddha of the future. Accompanying Maitreya, Vajrapani is depicted as the force that protects the teachings through the Vajra he carries. The outermost figure is attributed in some studies to Vishnu and in other sources to Brahma. Vanis, Kvabebi, Georgia. The settlement is a secluded monastic complex carved into the steep rock ridges around Aspinza. Situated on a steep and difficult-to-access rock face, the complex stands in balanced harmony with the surrounding natural valley. The structure that has survived in the most intact condition is the Church of St. George. Its location clearly indicates that this church served as the religious center within the spatial organization of Vanis Kvabebi. The rock chambers, connected by narrow tunnels, indicate that movement between them was controlled and secure. Bingling Temple Grottoes, China. The temple is a Buddhist cave complex carved into the steep rock cliffs along the Yellow River Valley. The earliest caves of the complex date back to the early 5th century AD, during the period of Western Qin rule. This large Buddha figure is the most important and visually striking sculpture of Bingling Temple. Wooden walkways provide access and connection between sacred spaces at different levels. Cave number 13 features a single-figure niche arrangement dating to the Tang dynasty. Caves 76 to 80 contain the multi-figure reliefs that define the iconographic core of the complex. Some caves within the temple are decorated with rich frescoes, extending beyond carved architectural forms. The reclining Buddha figure represents one of the most powerful depictions of the moment of nirvana in Buddhist art. Bingling Temple is an ideal destination for those interested in Buddhist art, rock-cut architecture, and Chinese history. Dambulla Cave Temple, Sri Lanka. Dating back to the 1st century BC, this structure reflects a tradition of worship that continued for centuries. Located beneath a massive rock overhang, the complex consists of 5 caves carved by human hands. More than 150 sculptures have been identified throughout the complex, most of them Buddha figures. The first cave is known as Devaraja Vihara and is dedicated to the Buddha depicted as a divine king. The second cave, known as Maharaja Vihara, is the largest and most richly decorated space within the complex. Within this expansive area, depictions of King Valagamba and King Nisanka Malla appear alongside Buddha figures. At the end of this arrangement, a reclining Buddha figure depicting nirvana draws attention. The third cave is known as Maha Alut Vihara and was arranged during a later historical period. Its interior is especially noted for wall paintings renewed in the style of the Kandy period. The fourth cave is known as Pakima Vihara and is smaller in scale. The fifth cave is called Devana Alut Vihara and is among the latest sections of the complex. The Buddha figures inside display a style that differs noticeably from those in the earlier caves. Church of St. George, Lalibela, Ethiopia. The foundations of the structure are believed to have been laid toward the late 12th century, during the period of Zagwe rule. In terms of both technical execution and aesthetic quality, it is regarded as one of the pinnacle achievements of rock-cut architecture. The entire structure was created by carving directly into the bedrock, without the use of any added stone. The church was made visible by lowering the surrounding ground level by approximately 10 to 12 meters. From the outside, the church is recognized by its large cross-shaped silhouette carved into the ground, the same cross plan continues inside, carved into the ceiling surface of the interior space. Selime Monastery, Türkiye. The monastic complex is located among natural rock formations in the Ihlara Valley region of Cappadocia. This location made it possible for the structure to be carved directly into the volcanic tuff rock. The rock-cut works are generally dated to the Byzantine period, specifically the 8th and 9th centuries. On some interior walls, traces of frescoes that have largely eroded over time can still be identified. The interior is arranged as a large rock volume carved into 2 levels. On the upper level, a series of arched openings are present, leading into separate cells. When examining the layout, it becomes clear that the monastery prioritized security as much as seclusion. We've reached the end of our journey through ancient rock-cut structures. If you enjoyed the video, liking it and sharing it with friends helps it reach more people. By subscribing, you support the continuation of these documentary-style explorations. Don't forget to leave a comment. Which rock-carved structure impressed you the most? Until we meet again on the next journey.